In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Islam. An important part of being a Muslim, especially in the West, is to counter the negative stereotypes and misinformation about Islam. The Islamic Information Service has several programs each year in cooperation with local mosques and universities, wherein groups of students are invited to observe Friday prayers, and they are given an opportunity to ask questions they might have about Islam and Muslims. Recently, a group from Biola University was invited to LA's newest mosque, Masjid Omar ibn al-Khattab. It's located near USC campus. The mosque, which took 10 years to build, was opened in the first part of 1994. Dr. Misbah El-Duraini is director of the mosque, and on this particular Friday, he was giving the khutbah and leading the congregational prayers. After the prayers, Dr. Misbah was joined by the president of IIS, Dr. Nazir Khaja, for an informal question and answer session with Dr. Alexander's religious studies class.
I just had a question about the growth of Islam in the world. In many parts of the world, Islam is growing tremendously. To what do you attribute the growth of Islam, and what primarily do you think it is that draws people to the Islamic faith?
The only thing we can say behind this growth is the knowledge reaching the people, and they make their decision based on their own finding. There is no effort from the Muslims really. There should be, but we are not that in this role yet.
I think one of the reasons maybe is that in general, especially in the West, the tide of secular humanism has practically wiped out every religion. And people are, after having gone through this phase, people are looking for something more meaningful. And they are beginning to go back to their roots. And I think there is also some resurgence of Christianity, there is some interest in Judaism, so that at least in the West, they have pushed things so far that some of us have sort of gotten up and said, well, what do we believe in actually? So that we are going back to that. But in terms of Islam, what has also happened, the reason that there is such a apparent ferment in those areas of the world where Muslims are populated or Muslims are striving to give the word, is that Islam is the only thing that is left for them to believe in. They have been politically, economically, and in so many ways exploited to such a great extent that they don't see any hope from any source, any ideology. And so that they go back to Islam. So there are many reasons for it, and we can go through this whole discussion on piece by piece as to what the colonial experience was, how economic backwardness in those parts of the world where people feel totally deprived and left out on the junk heap of history, how they could make some sense of their lives through a message or an ideology which emphasizes economic justice, which emphasizes equality, racial and otherwise. So there are multiple sort of dimensions to the question that has been posed.
Now, there is only also one more thing, that Islam in the media is really introduced in a way it's not just. And sometimes, through the media, people say, okay, let us find for ourselves. This is really the picture of Islam as the media introduced it. Is it true or false? And they start to read, in the time of event in the Middle East war or in Salman Rushdie's book or this and that, people read Quran more than ever. So people try to find out, is this what is said about Islam is true, or since the Muslims do not produce anything against that themselves except protest, they go to the Quran and read and find out and they accept.
I just wanted to know what the priorities of Islam are seen beyond bringing new people into the faith. That's something that most religions emphasize. But after that, what are the priorities as an expression of love for God and love for others?
The priorities in Islam as a religion, that it is not founded by even the Prophet Muhammad. It is since the beginning of humanity, from Adam and Eve's area. Islam means submission to God, the Creator. The number one issue is the oneness of God. There is only one God in charge of the creation. And your relationship with God should be direct relationship. Nobody should be in between. Not Muhammad, not Jesus, not Moses, not anybody. And not the priest, not the Pope, not the Imam. Direct relationship with God. And you receive the guidance through the message, the true message revealed from God Almighty to any of the messengers. We believe that there is so many messengers: Abraham, Moses, Jesus, David, Solomon, John. These are the good example for me to follow. They are all humans, but they receive revelations from God. I follow their footsteps. They applied this guidance and they invited the people to follow. So we do not worship any of them. We love them and we follow them. Then you have the relationship between you and God, between you and yourself, between you and your family, between you and the society. This relationship should be based on the equitable and just concept taught by God Himself, not letting men make their own laws to affect this relationship. If God already said your relationship between you and each other should be based on justice, you cannot come in any society and define justice to serve you and do not serve the other side.
I think to further elaborate on that, the two dimensions of Islam are Iman, which is the faith. He has outlined the basis of faith, and Amal, which is action. So that there is no uncoupling of the faith and deeds in Islam. So the priority then would be that once we are strong in faith, we will lead to such social interaction which will make this world a better place. Now, all of the injustices around the world that you are seeing are something which are a test for us, for those of us who are believers or those of us who have faith. And unless we act out, which is also mandated by Islam for us, we will not really be gaining pleasure in the hereafter of God. So the priority then would be, for those of us who believe, is to act according to what the Quranic message of justice and peace and a social uplift for mankind is. So that is the priority.
Thank you.
I was wondering, in your sermon you were mentioning a correct way of living, and I was curious, how does God help, or does He help supernaturally man to live this correct way of living?
The help of God, we believe the most important aspect of it when He guides you. For example, when He said, wine is to be prohibited for you. So alcohol. Then it saves us from so many programs and millions of dollars. And Muslims with a billion member in the world you will find very, very, very limited number who can violate that. And when God said justice will be the concept you live by, then you try from inside yourself to accommodate this concept. So you will not be greedy, you will be always sharing with other people. You will not be only concerned about yourself, but concerned about the welfare of all the members of human beings. If you notice the group of people who were here today, they are international community. People coming from every corner of the world. Colors, nationalities, language, every nationality is presented today here. And we are still 4 people here. He's from Pakistan, I'm from Egypt, he's from Syria.
From Afghanistan.
From Afghanistan and Syria. So 4 people here with you having different countries. So when we seek the guidance of God, you will feel the tranquility filling yourself or walking in the guidance He drew for you. Like, for example, if you are going from here to another area and you need someone to give you direction. The mere fact someone gave you direction exactly to reach there, he guided you and he helped you to reach your way. In the other aspect, that we believe that God is with us and with every individual. He is not in somewhere an absence from the others. And He's aware of your need. The mere fact that you feel that you are not alone and God is with you, you don't have to be stressed, you don't have to be confused. You always have the way to submit. If you are planning for anything and you did your best to reach your goal, sometimes you fail. Not from your own effort. You did your best. You study for your test and somehow you didn't get the degree you are looking for. If this happens, we say, it is the will of God. And we accept, but we try again. If you stumble, you don't stop, but you try again, and so.
Is Muhammad a prophet only for the Arab people, or for the whole world? And if he was for the whole world, must I become a Muslim in order to go to heaven?
We believe that God sent messages to humanity. Before the Prophet Muhammad, every messenger was sent to his own community, limited to the community he lives in. And in the time the message came to the Prophet Muhammad, was recorded in the Quran that it is for all mankind. And choosing the Arabic area or the Arab people to start with, as if choosing the worst of the worst. If the message of Islam works for this kind of environment, then it will be successful anywhere else. As today, Muslims all over the world are more of non-Arabs than Arabs. And the Quran is translated to every language, and many people can read the Quran in different language than the Arabic. So the Arabs today may be at the maximum 15% of the population of the Muslims all over the world.
When they bow down, the posture or the time, the length that they bow down, do you get merit at all doing it before God? Or is it only to glorify God? It's not to gain any merit. And do you recite prayers that's prescribed, or do you express your need or your feelings or your thoughts? And do you show care for a fellow Muslim believer by praying for that person to God?
Okay.
The prayer is two words for prayer in Arabic language, which is translated only by one word in English. There is a concept of asking God as prayer for yourself or for your fellow human beings or for the rest of the world or for peace for this or that. We call this dua, supplication. This is 24 hours a day. And wherever you are, you can communicate with God by word or by thoughts or by heart. He knows what you are talking to him about. This is available all the time. The other kind of prayer is prescribed prayers 5 times a day, which will be physically and by words and by body. That this is an example of Friday prayer. So these 5 times is in the dawn time before sun rises, in the noon time, in the afternoon around 4 o'clock, and in the sunset time and night time. 5 times a day with our body, with our pre-preparation. Also, we have to take showers or to wash face and hands and even our feet for this physical kind of prayers. So, and as Dr. Khaja explains, it's units that you stand and bow down and prostrate, and all this when it is in congregation to establish 2 things: your communication with God, and you are free from getting involved in anything except be with God. 2, that you are part of the group praying together, regardless of if you are the head of the country or the servant of the country. You are together in the same line. Colors, nationalities has nothing to do with us being in God. In the sight of God, we are all equal. And probably, one person in the line, little bit nearer to God, will raise the blessings of the whole line or the whole group. So as prescribed prayer, we call it salah. It is 5 times a day, the way you saw us performing today.
I'm wondering, what was the basis of salvation for the millions and millions of people that lived prior to the coming of Muhammad? Did it involve being a disciple of the prophets that came before Muhammad? In other words, were the apostles, were they doing all they could do by following the words of Christ, and the people who followed Moses doing all they could do? What was the basis of salvation prior to Muhammad?
As you recall, we didn't say that the Quran is the base of salvation. We said Islam started from Adam. Islam as a concept of submission to God. So all the messages to all the messengers of God teach the same thing, that there is only one God in charge. Make your relationship with God directly. No one should be between you and God as partner or associate. And have yourself expressing your thoughts and your communication with Him based on the guidance given to you through the messengers of God. I just said in the ceremony that the Quran is the final message from God to encompass all the messages before. So we know that, or those who study Islam, every Muslim believe in Jesus as a messenger of God, not through the efforts of the Christians, not through the efforts of the study. It is based on the Quran. Those who do not believe in God and the angels and the messengers of God, all of them, and the messages of God. We believe in the gospel, we believe in the Torah given to Moses, the gospel given to Jesus. We believe in the book given to David. We believe in Abraham and his message, and so on. And we believe in the day of judgment. Based on these concepts of faith in the heart, you follow the guidance of God. We are not perfect. We will not be computerized to follow every details in the guidance of God. As human beings, we did some kind of violation from time to time. It is not the end of life. Once you did something wrong, do not insist about it and come back to God. Say, I'm sorry, help me, forgive me. So the forgiveness is direct. I do not need anyone to sacrifice his life for me to be forgiven by God, the one I believe in. He said, come to me, I will forgive you. So the concept of forgiveness and salvation is always available to mankind from the time of Adam till today, till the life ended, that it is available. God is there, you are there, you have this kind of relationship with God. Talk to him directly.
For the Islamic Information Service, this is Nasiha Al-Sakina. Thank you for joining us this week, and please join us again next week on Islam. Assalamu alaikum.